When there's no vaccine for a disease like coronavirus, herd immunity can occur when enough people have gotten it, recovered from it, and are then immune to it. A Swedish disease expert said there are signs of herd immunity appearing around the capital, Stockholm. But one of the challenges of the new coronavirus is that it's still mysterious. There's a lot that researchers don't know about it. And the World Health Organization, which is part of the United Nations, says just because people have recovered from COVID-19 does not mean they're immune to it. Some governments around the world are considering giving out immunity passports to people who've recovered from coronavirus. This would let them continue with normal life without as many restrictions as other people might have. But the World Health Organization says that's not a good idea because it doesn't have proof that surviving COVID-19 means people are safe from getting it again.
Boris Johnson is back at work, having recovered from COVID-19 himself. The Prime Minister says the UK is now beginning to turn the tide on the virus. Italy's government has set out plans for a staged easing of the country's coronavirus lockdown, which began 7 weeks ago. From next Monday, parks will reopen and restaurants and bars will be allowed to serve takeaway food.
This is a big week for children in Spain. They're now allowed to play outside. For the past 6 weeks during the country's lockdown, adults have been allowed to go to the store or the pharmacy, but kids have only seen the light of day from indoors. There are still a lot of restrictions on what they're allowed to do. They can only stay outside for an hour. A parent has to be with them. They can't play with the neighbors, and playgrounds and parks are still closed. But Spain is one of the countries that's slowly and cautiously opening things back up. And the nation's prime minister says if the number of coronavirus infections continues to decrease, adults could be allowed to go out to exercise as soon as this weekend. Several other European countries, from Belgium to Italy to Malta, are looking to ease some of their restrictions in the days ahead. And in America, certain states are looking to reopen non-essential businesses as well.
We are continuing to rapidly expand our capacity and confident that we have enough testing to begin reopening and the reopening process. We want to get our country open, and the testing is not going to be a problem at all. In fact, it's going to be one of the great assets that we have. Today, we're releasing additional guidance on testing to inform the states as they develop their plans for a phased and very safe reopening. Our blueprint describes how states should unlock their full capacity, expand the number of testing platforms, establish monitoring systems to detect local outbreaks, and conduct contact tracing.
The United States passed a milestone yesterday in the number of its coronavirus cases. According to Johns Hopkins University, more than 1 million cases of the disease have been confirmed in America. That's about a third of the cases confirmed worldwide. And when we produced this show, about 58,000 Americans had died from COVID-19. For perspective, the flu infects roughly 26 million Americans on average each year, and it kills an average of 36,000 people. So based on those numbers, the flu infects many more people than coronavirus has, but COVID-19 is more dangerous.
Do you think he is the right person to do that? And were you disappointed that somebody else didn't play you on Saturday Night Live?
No, Brad Pitt is one of my favorite actors, and I think he did a great job. He got the raspiness of my voice right. He got the hand movements right. I think he's got to work a little on the Brooklyn accent, but I think he did a great job. He was really very funny.
Okay.
I think he did what he did at the end was a class act, I thought, when he took the wig off and thanked me and the healthcare workers just the way you did. So I've never met him, but he seems like he really is a classy guy.
Since the summer of 2009, when the Great Recession came to an end, the United States' gross domestic product had grown in every quarter, every 3-month period of the financial calendar. It was America's longest economic expansion in history, but now, according to many economists, it's over. The U.S. Commerce Department said Wednesday that gross domestic product fell by 4.8% in the first quarter of this year. That's its worst drop since the country was in the midst of the Great Recession in 2008. And it's because of all the closures, shutdowns, and especially the drop in consumer spending brought on by the coronavirus. Consumer spending is the biggest factor in America's GDP. Recession is generally defined as when GDP shrinks for 2 quarters in a row, and economists increasingly believe that one started last month.
The pandemic has driven the US economy into its most severe contraction for more than a decade. It shrank nearly 5% in the first quarter, the first 3 months of 2020. But the lockdown only came in towards the end of that quarter, so the head of the US central bank has warned there'll be much more economic pain in the figures for April through June. The death toll from coronavirus in the UK has now passed 26,000.
Even though at least 31 states say they'll partially reopen over the next few days, this doesn't include their schools. Most school buildings in America have been shut down for the rest of the 2019-2020 academic year. Classes may still be in session, they're just online. In some states with fewer coronavirus cases, places like Montana and Wyoming, schools will be allowed to reopen this month, but they may choose to stay closed to help prevent the spread of the disease.
This is BBC News, the headlines. President Trump says China will be held accountable for the pandemic as soon as US intelligence reports confirm what went wrong. Agencies have concluded that the COVID-19 virus was not man-made. They're still examining if its spread was due to a possible accident at a Chinese laboratory.